So the Acolyte episodes number 1 and 2 by former Weinstein assistant Leslye Headland came out, and I decided to check it out. Mostly because there's been rumorings that this series was going to change Star Wars lore forever. And I was like, all right, let's see how exactly that's going to happen. So Star Wars takes place during the High Republic, which is basically what the Old Republic used to be, but I guess Disney has to put their own twist on it. High Republic had like a bunch of comics that failed, so I wasn't really expecting much out of this series. This series was in development years ago. This was started in like 2019. Yeah, I don't know why it took this long, but it did. I'm just going to go right through the episodes. We start off with the Star Wars text over the stars that we always get. Only there's no scrolling in here. It's just right in your face. And I was like, did Disney just give up on the whole scroll? Because that's what Star Wars is kind of known for. I mean, amongst a lot of other things. But the scrolling is like a big thing. Usually you'll get the scrolling text kind of setting you up. And then we'll like pan down to a planet. And then that's when we jump into that planet. Instead, they just throw the text right at you. But yeah, basically this is 100 years before the rise of the Empire. This is a time of peace. The Jedi Order and the Galactic Republic have prospered for centuries. And in the dark corner of the galaxy, someone is training to use the Force for evil. So we have this character arriving on this planet, hooded figure with Rick James hairdo. And she is hunting down this Jedi. The Jedi's name is Indara. It's played by Carrie-Anne Moss, who most likely know her from The Matrix. And she basically challenges Indara to a fight and says, attack me. This is kind of like her basic gimmick. She goes to these Jedis and asks them to attack her first. So we get like a fight scene. I'll say the fight scene is okay-ish. So the Jedi, Indara, doesn't want to attack her. She's like, the Jedi don't attack first, stuff like that. And our masked characters, like, that's a lie, starts attacking the Jedi's friends. And she just beats the crap out of them. We have this very stupid part where she like grabs one character in a reverse headlock and another character is like struggling to pull out his gun from his holster, even though his gun isn't like, his holster is not strapped. He's just staring at his gun, trying to yank it out and it won't come out. And then when it finally does, it's too late. She kicks a table at him and defeats him. I was like, all right, this was stupid. The rest of the fight was okay. There was like a pretty cool scene where we see our masked character like using the Force to pull these blades from her belt and into her hands. I was like, all right, that was a kind of cool visual. Eventually, the Jedi is able to stop our masked character and pulls down her mask and realizes that, oh, I know this person. Why it took her pulling down the face mask, why she couldn't tell by the top half of her face, especially her hair. Like you would think, hey, I should know who this character is, but no, she had to pull down the face mask and is like, oh, now that I see your human mouth, I know who you are. And we have this masked character. You know what? I'm just gonna say the name because I'm tired of saying masked character. This is May. So we have May. And May sees this bartender. She throws a knife at the bartender, and Indara uses her Force to stop the knife. And as she's using the Force to stop the knife, May throws another knife that stabs Indara and kills her. And I was just like, really? She got killed by a knife? The problem with this is that Disney has pretty much programmed into our heads that characters can survive being stabbed by lightsabers. So if they can survive being stabbed by lightsabers, they should be able to survive being stabbed by a tiny knife. But no, this kills her. She's dead. And then May goes down, threatens the bartender, and then leaves without killing him. This whole scene itself was, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. There were some like cool moments, but there were also some dumb moments, like the whole gun holster scene. And then again, just the knife being the one that kills Indara. It doesn't make any sense. It would make sense if we didn't have a bunch of other episodes and movies where characters got stabbed by lightsabers and survived. But because we've seen that in every single Star Wars series from Disney, it kind of just makes me think, oh, so you can survive a lightsaber to the gut and to the chest, but you can't survive a tiny little blade to the chest? Okay, whatever. And that's when we cut to our main character, Osha. And you may realize, hey, Osha may look exactly the same. Yeah, that's because they're twin sisters. So there's this like whole mystery where it's like the Jedi believe that Osha killed Indara, but it was actually her sister May. And this mystery doesn't last for too long, which I think is really, really stupid. I think this could have been something that they could have dragged out for a while. I'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, so we have Osha, and Osha works basically as a suicidal mechanic. But basically, she's the person who goes outside and does spacewalks and fixes ships from the exterior while they're out in space. And you maybe think, well, you can have droids that do that. Yeah, but there's also people that do it too. And she's one of them. And so we have this scene where she's out on the ship and there's a fire and she's trying to put out the fire. And I'm just thinking, wait, you got a fire out in space? You mean that thing that needs oxygen to burn is burning in this space that has no oxygen? How's that working out? So, yeah, we got a fire in space. I mean, whatever. We had horses running on a ship, so why not fire in space? So yeah, she puts out the fire in space, and then that's when two Jedi show up. One of them is Yord, and Yord is a idiot. And I'm not just talking about the actor, but the character itself is also pretty stupid, which is kind of funny because it seems like Disney keeps wanting to have the black characters be retarded. We had that with Finn, where Finn could have been this great, awesome, amazing character, and instead they just made him be a joke. And you have Yord, who is also a joke. But Yord comes with this Padawan and basically wants to question Osha and says, hey, Indara was killed, and the person that killed her matches your description, so you're under arrest. And Osha's like, I can't believe it. Like, I mean, I've been on this ship. Indara, you said, was killed yesterday. How the hell could I have killed someone, a Jedi no less, a Jedi Master, and then get onto this ship? It's like, that doesn't make any sense, but whatever. So she's going to get arrested, and she's thrown into this prison ship where there's these other characters, and they're telling her, hey, we're going to make this great escape, and you want to join us? And she's like, no, I have faith in the Jedi. So they're like, all right, whatever, loser. And so they escape, and the escape is so stupid. So we have these droids that are piloting the ship, and the guard is also a droid. So other than the prisoners, everyone else on this ship is a droid. So there's this prisoner who is able to hack the droids and pull them out of hyperspace. Why you would allow this prisoner to keep this technology, I have no idea. But yeah, so they hack the droids, ship goes out of hyperspace, and then one of the guards comes, and another prisoner uses his tongue to wrap around the guard, rip off its head, and then they rip off its hands and uses the hands to scan the door locks and free themselves. Which just begs the question, why didn't you just do that in the first place? Why do you need to hack the droids? Why couldn't you just go use your tongue on this guard, free yourself, and then go destroy the droids? Because the droids are stuck in their chairs. Like, they're actually part of the chair, so you don't necessarily need to hack them. Oh, you could have just left them alone, and then you could have piloted the ship yourself. Instead, no. They decide to hack the droids, which causes the ship to exit out of hyperspace and crash into a comet, and so the ship is starting to get like destroyed, and they all have to bail. Which also just begs the question of why didn't you do anything with this prisoner to make sure that he wasn't able to attack the guard? Like, these are just terrible guards. This whole setup is stupid. Guards are destroyed. Prisoners are making their escape. There's 2 escape pods. Prisoners all escape in one of them. Osha is stuck in hers by herself, but she's eventually able to get her little droid called Pip, and she's able to use Pip to open up her door, and all she does is she basically uses Pip to electrocute this little tiny button circuit. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's like this little tiny piece of her door. And all you got to do is just kind of electrocute it just a tiny little bit, and it opens up the door for you. And I'm just like, okay, these doors absolutely suck. Like, this is a terrible prison system. But she's frees herself. There's one other prisoner that's kind of unconscious. She wakes him up. He freaks out, and he takes the last escape pod. And so Osha is forced to crash onto this planet. Meanwhile, we have Soul. Soul is a Jedi Master. He's like the most interesting character in this entire series so far. He's your typical Jedi Master. He's like in the middle of like teaching his new Padawans. And we have this funny scene where he tells all of them to close their eyes and tell me what you think. Like, what do you see? And then we have this like poor little alien dude who has no eyelids. So he's basically screwed out of this lesson. He's just forced to just sit there and take this all in. But eventually this other woman shows up, and he lets all the Padawans go when they talk. And this woman tells him like, hey, Dara was killed, and the person who killed her was your former Padawan, Osha. And so he's kind of like, oh my God, like he can't believe it. And so he's put on the task of trying to find Osha. They tell him like, hey, the ship that she was on, it crashed on this planet, and we want you to go recover her. And so Soul decides to take his Padawan, Jeki, as well as Yord, to go find Osha. And Jeki she's supposed to be a Padawan, but she is smarter and better than Yord, who is supposed to be a Jedi Knight. How Yord was able to become a Jedi Knight, I have no idea. But Jeki is basically like bossing him around and just outsmarting him and everything. It's kind of sad. So yeah, we cut to Osha, who wakes up on the ship after it's crashed on this planet. And she has this vision of her sister, and she chases her sister around. And her sister basically tells her, hey, I killed all I'm the one that killed Indara, and I'm going to be hunting down the Jedis. And it's just kind of like, all right, well, you just threw away your whole like mystery right there and then there. Not that it wasn't spoiled already in the trailers, but I thought this was kind of dumb. Like, it would have been more interesting if you didn't show that Osha had a twin sister and she was the one murdering all of the Jedi. Like, you could have had this whole thing like, is it Osha? Is it someone else? I mean, you kind of get spoiled that it is someone else when Osha is informed that, well, Osha says that her parents and her sibling was killed, like her sister. And it's like, what you could have done instead is you could have just mentioned that her village was destroyed and she was taken in, and she suffers grief from she suffers survivor's guilt, and just not even mention the sister whatsoever. And then also, rather than having Indara be killed and then Osha gets arrested the next day, you could have had like a week pass or something. So you're basically giving her time to get from one planet to the other, or at least you're building that image in the audience's head that, okay, she had enough time to get from this planet to this planet. But instead, they just kind of throw that all out in the very first episode. Where you're like, nah, she has a twin sister. Twin sister's still alive, and twin sister is the one that's murdering everybody. And people just think it's her, but it's actually her sister. So I was like, okay, well, I guess that mystery is done. So we cut back to the Jedis, and they're on their way to the planet. And Soul eventually tells them like that Osha has a twin sister. And Yord, who was like friends with Osha when she was a Jedi before she quit because, well, she was a Padawan, but she quit because she didn't have the skills or whatever to qualify. And so she left to set her own life. But Yord had no idea that she had a sister. No one has any idea she has a sister. It's not in any files or anything like that. Which begs the question, why? I mean, you have the fact that her parents and her village is killed. Why didn't you put the fact that she has a sister and her sister was quote unquote killed as well? I don't know, but this is like news to everybody except for Soul. Jeki has a smart idea where she's like, well, if she has a twin sister, how do we know it's not the sister that's killing everyone and not Osha? And Soul's like, no, it can't be May because I saw her get killed. I saw her die. Keep that in mind. They go to the planet. They find Osha. Osha tells them, like, it wasn't me. It was my sister. And Soul's like, I believe you. And then I'm just thinking, wait, if you believe her, then why did you shoot down the suggestion that May could have been the one that's murdering people instead of Osha? Like, as soon as your Padawan mentioned, hey, maybe it was a twin that did it, why did you say, no, May is dead? But then as soon as Osha says, I didn't do it, May is still alive, Soul's like, yeah, I believe you. Like, really? Come on. So they decide, okay, we're going to take her onto the ship. And then we cut to May, where May's walking on this beach, and she sees like her master. And we have this like funny moment where her master's saying that weapons and lightsabers, like weapons, lightsabers and steel and blades cannot kill a Jedi. And I'm like, except a knife did, which is a blade, which is a weapon. It literally killed a Jedi Master in the very first 10 minutes of this episode. So, yeah, weapons can kill Jedis. But, yeah, and the reason I bring this up is because this is a thing that May has, where she confronts the Jedis and she's trying to kill the Jedis without using weapons. Like, that's her thing. We even have a moment where one of the Jedis is like, why aren't you using any weapons against me as they're fighting? I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but this is the thing where May is trying to kill people, the Jedis, without using weapons, except for the fact that she actually uses weapons in every single confrontation. So that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, her master is basically just telling us, yeah, you can't kill a Jedi with a weapon. You have to kill them like with their own philosophy, basically. And it's just like, nah, I'm pretty sure you can just stab them with a knife like you did in the first 10 minutes of this movie. But okay, whatever. So that's episode 1. And then episode 2, we have May going into this Jedi temple. She sneaks in. I say sneak in, but she literally walks like right past some Jedis who don't even bat an eye at the fact that she's there. And she confronts this Jedi. His name is Torben. And Torben is just meditating. He's just kind of floating in the air. And May stands in front of him, talks to him, says, attack me. And he just completely ignores her. And so May like starts trying to attack him, throwing knives at him, punching him, kicking him. But he has like a force field around him, so May's not able to do anything. So then she just leaves. And then that's when we cut to the ship that Soul is on. And Osha wakes up and she's talking to Jackie and like helping her fix this ship panel and explains what she is, that she's like a mechanic, basically, like a suicidal mechanic. Yord confronts Soul and is basically asking him, hey, maybe we shouldn't let the prisoner just be free, like in walking around the ship without any cuffs on. Maybe we should do something about that. And Soul's like, nah, she's going to be fine. And then he leaves and he is talking to some Jedi Masters. And the Jedi Master tells them that we believe that May is actually still alive because Torben was just attacked earlier by someone that fits Osha's description. But Osha's clearly with you, so it couldn't have been her. So it must have been her twin sister. And Soul decides not to share this knowledge with anybody. You would think he would share it with his crew. Like, hey, I was just in contact with the Jedi Master, and they just told me that your sister attacked another Jedi before fleeing. So obviously it wasn't you. I mean, obviously Osha knows it's not her, but just to put Yord and Jackie at ease, that hey, this girl, she's okay. Like, she's not the one that attacked Indara and killed her. It's her sister. But no, he decides to keep this information to himself for reasons I don't know. And we cut back to May, who's on this planet, and she's like, okay, I can't get to Torben. I have to find another way to get to him. And so she goes into this bar where there's this dude named Khmer. He's like a smuggler. And so he basically like killed the person who ran this bar and is now taking his place. And he basically explains to her that there's got to be another way to get to Torben. Instead of like trying to use your fists and bronze and all that stuff, there's got to be something that he wants that only you can give him. And so he creates a poison for May. And then May goes and confronts Torben and basically talks about Torben's past. Like, Torben has something that he did in the past that he can't forgive himself for. And that's one of the reasons why he came to this planet, to kind of like seclude himself in this temple and just be at one with the Force. And May is like, you have two options. You can either go and tell the Jedi everything that happens, or you can drink this and I'll give you absolution. He puts the poison down. And Torben decides to drink it. So Torben basically decides to commit self-deletion. Again, this just begs the question, like, I thought May wasn't supposed to be using weapons. Poison is technically a weapon. Sol and Asha and Jord and Jackie, they arrive at this planet. They approach the temple, and one of the temple guards there is like explaining everything that happened about how this person broke in and tried to go after Torben, but wasn't able to reach him, and that the person looks exactly like Osha. And then they decide to lead the way to Torben. But along the way, Osha like has this like vision, or she hears voices, so she walks a different path. And Jord notices her and follows after her. And Osha gets to Torben's body and discovers him dead with the poison. And then that's when the other Jedi show up and they see her standing over the dead body and they assume it's her. And Jord has to come out and be like, no, it wasn't her. I followed her when she broke contact with the rest of the group, and I had my eyes on her the entire time. It also just kind of begs the question of, how did Osha get to the body first when the rest of the knights were also on their way to the body? Like, did they just decide to take the scenic route and Osha just took the shortcut? But whatever. So Torben is dead, and they know for sure that it was May that did it. And so they realize it was done by this poison. This poison you can only get in certain locations. And one of the locations that you can get is on this planet from this shop. And so they decide to check out the shop, and they realize that, hey, the guy who's running the shop right now, that's not the regular dude. So something's going on there. Jord comes up with the idea of, why don't I go inside and I confront him, and then I'll shoot him with this gun that will stun him. We take him back on the ship and we interrogate him. And then Jackie's like, no, you stupid idiot. Why don't we just have Osha go in there pretending to be May and we just record the conversation? And so I was like, that's a great idea, Jackie. Let's do that. So yeah, Jord's just, he's an idiot. And it's kind of a shame that we're once again having a character that should be a Jedi Knight. That's what his rank is. And yet a Padawan is outshining him and outclassing him in every respect. And the weird thing is that I don't care for this, but Disney obviously cares. This is the Black Knight. This is the Black Jedi. So once again, we have another Star Wars character that's black, who is made to be the joke, who is made to be the, I don't want to say comic relief because he's not cracking jokes or anything, but he's the butt of jokes. He's the one that he gives up he's like telling his ideas and he's constantly shut down. He gives his opinions and everyone tells him, nah, that you're wrong. Ignore those opinions. They're stupid. They don't say it like in those words, but that's kind of like the impression that I get. He's the one that was supposed to arrest Osha, and he completely bungles that up. So this guy is just a joke. And it's just like, okay, like you did the same thing with Finn. Like, does Disney just hate black men? Because you're constantly making them the butt of jokes. And it's like, that sucks, because Soul is clearly supposed to be like Ugonjin. Like, the mannerisms and stuff is similar. You could have had Jord be like a Obi-Wan Kenobi like character. Like when Obi-Wan was still like a knight before he became, all wise and stuff like that. So you could have had him be a little bit naive, but still like be someone that you can fully trust with a lightsaber. I have no trust in this guy with a light. If this guy brought his lightsaber out, I'll be running in the opposite direction because I'll be scared he might accidentally kill me or something. Like he's that idiotic. So yeah, Jackie's like, why don't we just dress Osha up as May and have her go in there? And Soul's like, all right, great idea. Let's do that. So Osha goes in, pretends to be her sister, does a terrible job at it. The smuggler immediately recognizes that, oh, this is May. And everyone else is like, well, that didn't work out, so let's just all rush in there. So they all rush in there, and they basically say, hey, we know that Osha is involved in the killings. We know you've had contact with her. Who exactly is she working with? Who is her master? If you tell us, we'll leave you off with just a warning. And so he's like, well, I don't really know, but she's supposed to come back here at midnight. So they're like, all right, we'll come back at midnight. And I'm just thinking, you're going to let this guy go free? I mean, they're going to be like watching the building, but Why do you need him in the building? You could have easily just knocked him out, put him on the ship in prison, and then just wait there for May to show up. But instead, nah, they decide to just leave him there. And so they do a stakeout. And eventually, May shows up. And Soul goes to confront her. And Osha wants to go as well. But Soul's like, no, I need to do this on my own. And basically, we kind of get hints that Soul, he feels bad that he wasn't able to save May, that he was only able to save Osha. And that's something that's he's like forgiven himself for, but it seems like he's never really been able to let that go, even though Osha herself tells her, like, you did all that you could. But I guess, yeah, he kind of wants to redeem himself. So he goes and he confronts Osha, and Osha throws a dagger at him, and it just like hits the floor in front of him. And then she goes and starts fighting him in martial arts. And Soul points out, I noticed you're not using any weapons. And it's like, well, I mean, she did just throw a knife at you. That is a weapon. But they're really trying to hammer home this thing about not using weapons. We had May's master say that to her earlier in the first episode. We had Soul bringing this up. We had the smuggler mention that May is trying to kill the Jedi without weapons. And it's like, well, actually, you're using weapons. You used a knife and then you used poison. Well, the funny thing is that you use poison after the knives didn't work on the second guy. Because on the first person, you use a knife to kill her. On the second dude, you try to throw knives at him as well as like using your fists and feet. And because he had like a barrier around him, that didn't work. So then you use poison. So the whole I'm going to kill these Jedis without using weapons, that's already like out the window. I don't know why you keep bringing that up because you're already using weapons, but whatever. So we get a fight. It's pretty one-sided. Every time when May tries to do something, Soul is just kind of able to like deflect her and block her and stuff like that. And then eventually Yord shows up and they're going to arrest her. And so May uses her force on the ground to send up a bunch of dust. And as the dust is everywhere, she uses that to make her escape. And as that's going down, Osha has the stun gun and she goes to confront her sister. And she discovers that her sister is here. She's alive. And her sister also sees that Osha's alive because her sister thought that Osha was killed. So both of them thought that the other one was dead. But now they realize, actually, we're both still alive. And so they just kind of stare at each other. And then Osha shoots at May and misses. And then she shoots again. She also misses again. It's kind of shown that maybe Osha purposely missed the shot to let her sister escape. But it's not like fully told to us. But yeah, May eventually makes her escape. Soul goes to inform the Jedis about what happened, and they tell her basically show back up at Coruscant, if I pronounced that right, and that we got to come up with some new way of stopping May. And Soul's like, well, like we're right on her trail. We know where she's going to go. Why don't we just go confront her? And they're like, no, that's not how we do things. So basically, you're making the Jedi like stupid to further this plot along. And to also give the Sith or the dark side, like, oh, look at these Jedis. Look at they're so stuck in their ways that they're failures. That's kind of like what we're getting here. When it's like, I mean, if we can literally go right after her, we know where she's going to go next. She wants to kill 4 Jedis. She already got 2 of them. One of them is Soul, and the other one is this rookie, and we know exactly where he's at. So why don't we just go to where she's going to go next? And stop her there. But the Jedi was like, no, we got to talk about this first. So there's that. Meanwhile, May goes back to the bar so that she can talk to the smuggler. And basically he's like, you betrayed me. And the smuggler is like, I have a way of getting us off this planet and onto this other planet. And May's like, why would I want to go there? And he's like, because that's where the rookie Jedi is. Why Soul and Yord and Jecki and them decided not to imprison this smuggler and just let him go free, I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense. They did put like a guard on him. Like they put another Jedi to watch him, but even then, like just take him, throw him in prison, question him if you want, wait at the bar because she's obviously coming back to talk to him. So wait at the bar for May to come back again and confront her a second time. But no, they decide, okay, we're going to leave this planet. We're not going to go try to stop May again because the Jedi's told us. And yeah, they allow May to talk to the smuggler, and the smuggler is now going to escape the planet with May, and they're going to go track down the Wookiee Jedi. And then we cut to the planet that the Wookiee is on, and we just kind of see him as he goes into his house, and that's how episode 2 ends. Yeah, that's the first 2 episodes of the Acolyte. They weren't terrible. They weren't great. There were some, like, just as I pointed out, there were just some stupid decisions made by the characters. It's like characters doing stupid things so that we can further the plot rather than, characters making logical decisions. So that was kind of annoying. Again, also just the fact that a knife killed a Jedi. Again, it would make sense to me if you didn't have a whole bunch of other episodes from previous series of Jedis and other regular characters being stabbed with lightsabers and surviving. Like, if you didn't have that, then I can totally buy a Jedi Master being killed by a tiny little knife. But because you had other Jedi surviving lightsaber stabs, having one of them get killed by a knife, I don't know, it suspends my disbelief. Because now I'm just thinking, well, if that was a lightsaber, would she have survived? She probably would. So a little tiny knife is more deadly than a lightsaber, thanks to Disney. For the positives, I will say that the acting isn't too bad. Osha is fine. Like, the actress for Osha is fine when she's playing Osha. When she's playing May, it's kind of, I'm not really buying it. She doesn't play this tragic villain all that well. Like, it's very stilted. But when she's playing, like, Osha, she seems okay. Soul, it sounds like he's kind of struggling to do English, which is completely understandable since that's not his main language. But his facial reactions and stuff like that is fine. Like, I think he's the best character in this series so far. The actor for Yord is okay. It's just the Yord character himself is really dumb. And I wish that they would treat that character with a little bit more respect. Character for Jakey is completely fine as well. So the acting is not that bad. The productions is actually really good. Which, I mean, they're putting in $180 million budget for 8 episodes. And the episodes are like 30 to 40 minutes. So the production better be damn good. And it actually is. This is like movie quality, at least when it comes to the sets. For the special effects, you know what? I'll say the special effects were actually pretty decent as well. There was really no parts that like really stood out to me as like, oh, that's obvious CGI. They've all been pretty good. So yeah, huge props to the productions, the sets, special effects were pretty decent. Like the aliens for like the background characters, the alien designs look pretty good. So I'll give praise for that. Story itself, I don't know. I really don't know what it wants to do. Like, at first, it kind of wanted to tease this, is Osha a villain? But then they completely throw that story away, like, halfway through the first episode. And then you have characters that are just acting the way that I don't buy it. Like, I don't buy that a Jedi Knight is this stupid, that a Padawan is one-upping him every single time. I don't buy the fact that Soul, who is a Jedi Master, would not clearly tell his underlings, like, hey, I just got orders from the Jedi, or I got news from them. Osha is clearly not the one involved in the murders. I mean, eventually the rest of them, they realize that Osha is innocent, but they could have found out a lot earlier if Soul just told them. So, and then we had stuff again, like the escape, it's so stupid. So overall, I would give this like maybe a 5 out of 10. This was very average. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible though. Like, I went into this expecting something really, really bad, and I didn't get that. But it wasn't anything amazing either. It was just average. Apparently, the next episode's where like the lore breaking really happens, so I guess we'll see. But all in all, this is just kind of, it's there. It's a Star Wars series. That's all I can really say. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. If it wasn't for like the lore breaking episode and stuff, I probably wouldn't have watched this. Yeah, there you go. Those are my thoughts on the Acolyte. What do you guys think? You agree, disagree? You enjoying it so far? You think it's dumb? Personally, for me, it's another Star Wars series that I've watched. It's not the best thing I've watched. It's not the worst thing I've watched. It just is. So maybe that's considered a positive, just because the rest of the stuff Disney has been pumping out, especially when it comes to Star Wars, have been god awful. That when you have something that's not completely terrible. It deserves some praise, I guess, for not being completely terrible. But I guess we'll see. But yeah, 5 out of 10 is what I would give the first 2 episodes. We'll see how it goes. But there you go. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again, and I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.